Hello, NFL fans, and welcome to another edition of NFL Chat brought to you by sports-kings.com. I'm your host, Andy. Along with me tonight, I have a great panel of very, very intelligent NFL minds. To start off, we have Brett from Down and Distance.
I think my hair still looks better than yours, but...
I don't think so, pal.
And who are you calling a great NFL mind? I don't know who that is, because Austin sure isn't that.
Oh. So, next we have Austin.
How's it going, fellas? You know, it's March Madness over here, and I'm not talking about college basketball. How you like that? What do you think of that?
Ladies, keep in mind that he does not own a van. Next, we have Shane.
How's it going, guys? Happy to be here. Proud to serve.
Shane claimed he was going to do the whole show with his eyes like in the camera, all creepy, but I think that already kind of went away. And last but not least, we have David, our baseball guy, talking football as always.
Thanks for letting me join you. Looking forward to the hour.
Wait, what about baseball, Dave? Tell us when baseball starts.
I don't know anything about that. Think about the pitchers and catchers in a few weeks.
Pitchers and catchers.
Look, we have enough MLB terrorists trying to destroy the sanctity of my NFL timeline on Twitter.
Good for them.
All right, so without further ado here, before this train completely derails itself before we even start, we're going to kick off with some general news topics around the NFL. Even though it's not NFL season, the NFL is big enough that we always have plenty of topics to kick around. First topic of the night is Peyton Manning cleared with the neck injury, and it was actually kind of a small loophole in his contract. I was reading earlier he needed to pass this physical, and I think it's something like $20 million hangs in weight. So let's start with you, Shane, first, and let's talk a little bit about Peyton Manning and what this means.
I really wasn't shocked at all. If you watch Peyton Manning this season, he was among the least sacked quarterbacks this year. So I really didn't anticipate any problems with his neck physical, and I think just gives a sigh of relief to all Broncos fans because they know without Peyton Manning, instead of a Super Bowl contender, they're just merely a playoff contender.
Tim Tebow. David, your thoughts?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, if you saw him play last year, some are calling that the greatest single season in NFL history by a quarterback. Statistically, it's hard to argue that, but it'd be hard to imagine that he couldn't answer the bell. But at the same time, these NFL physicals can be tricky. You see many a trade or free agent deal vetoed because of these lingering injuries. So you would hope that it wouldn't come to that. Obviously, the Broncos fans, everything's healthy. The long-term question is how much longer can he really go? Are we talking 1 season, 2 seasons, or 3 or 4? He's old, but not that old. We've seen quarterbacks go up to the age of 40. He's no worse for the wear after this neck injury, assuming that abates. So it's great he'll be back next year. He's great for the game as long as he can play.
Brett, your thoughts on Peyton Manning and being cleared?
I think he's going to finish out his contract at least. I mean, he's signed through the 2016 season. I think he's at least going to finish out those 3, and it's got to be good news for Broncos fans. I think last week we talked about how the Patriots need to be in the win now mode, and I think for the Broncos they need to spend these next 3 years thinking free agents, who can we get? Yes, the draft, but who do we get to win now? We only have Manning for maybe 3 years. How do we win a Super Bowl with him?
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, and I think we said a little bit about this last week. Austin wasn't here, obviously, but we talked to Patriots, and, we kind of talked about the win-now mode. Nobody's confused with the fact that the Patriots, or the Broncos in this case, are in win-now mode, and they're not building for the future with these older quarterbacks. Austin, your thoughts on your favorite quarterback, Peyton Manning?
Yeah, absolutely. It bodes well for the Broncos, most definitely. And when you want to talk about the win-now mode, Manning and Brady both are going to be on their way out in the next, 2 to 5 years or so. I hope at least Manning plays 2 more years, because if he does play 2 more years, he will most certainly pass Brett Favre in passing yards. And I think this next season, easily, barring any kind of injury, he will pass Brett Favre in touchdowns thrown throughout his career. So good news, and I'm looking forward to some Peyton Manning. Even if he loses some strength in his arm, all that knowledge and just what he does at the line of scrimmage is so important to any offense, more particularly the Denver Broncos. Good news in Denver, most definitely.
And I mean, yeah, I think that the NFL is obviously better with Peyton Manning playing football, Peyton Manning being healthy, and his bank account's a little healthier with that $20 million now being fully guaranteed.
His bank account's fine as it is.
It is, but I mean, $20 million is still $20 million. I can't really shake a stick at it.
Alone.
Yeah, even if he didn't pass his physical, even if he didn't pass the physical, he's still got Papa in the house. So I mean, Manning's gonna be all right.
He can borrow from Eli.
Still, it's still $20 million. $20 million is, I mean, $20 million. That's more than Colin Kaepernick is looking to get per season, and that's actually our next topic. Our next topic is Colin Kaepernick is. I think he makes less than $1 million, or he's slated to make less than $1 million this season. Shane, you probably know that exact number.
No, I don't.
Oh, come on. Okay, so he's slated to make, I think, less than $1 million. I thought I read 900 and some odd thousand, which I'll take. But apparently Kaepernick is looking to get something in the Cutler range, which I believe was $18.1 million per, and the guaranteed was crazy too. I think like I have it right here, $38 million guaranteed. So first and foremost, Colin Kaepernick. Is Colin Kaepernick worth that money? Do we think Colin Kaepernick is going to get that money? After a trip to the Super Bowl and then a trip to the NFC conference game. What do you think, Austin? We'll start with you.
I'm just gonna flat out say no. I'm looking forward to what you have to say about him, Andy. Because isn't it Kaepernick that you're not too fond of, good sir?
No, I love him. He's like my favorite player.
Oh yeah, right. Well, with Kaepernick, I just think it's this classic kind of ego get into his head. The jersey sells get into his head a little bit, and all the bandwagon Niners fans getting in his head a little bit. Like, I've been to the Super Bowl or the playoffs more than these guys, and they're getting paid this. It's like when you have that kind of a defense, that head coach, that running game, you better make it to the playoffs and maybe the Super Bowl. What is this, the second season? I think that the Niners would have been just fine if they would have just went with Alex Smith. He does some incredible things on the ground. I'll give him that. This new, hybrid quarterback type of deal that we've been talking about. But, I mean, slow down a little bit, buddy. Let's take it a little bit slow. This is your second year. You're still under that same contract. Just slow down a bit. I don't think he's worth that much. You might pay him that much if you lose some key players on defense or maybe a crucial wide receiver. But if the man was on a scrub team that can't protect him and stuff, he'd be running for his life all the time, and he'd pretty much, pardon the language, get his ass kicked. I don't think he's worth that much. It's too early to say, whereas Cutler and Romo have been there and done that. They're reliant on that arm, and they don't have all the awesome weapons around them like Kaepernick does.
We'll pass this because David's got a really intriguing look on his face. So I'm going to go to David next here with this.
Cutler and Romo, you're talking about those two guys?
Well, that's what the kind of money he wants to make.
Well, yeah, and those guys don't make the championship games and don't win playoff games, so they've had limited success. So I'm kind of scratching my head. I mean, obviously, Manning and Brady aside, and Drew Brees and some of those guys, but no, it is way too early to ask for that kind of money. Although, as a businessman and a player and a marketer, he's marketing himself. If you notice, he's a constant marketer with the kissing of the bicep and all that. He's an astute guy that knows how to sell himself, and he's doing a decent job of it as we go through this. Put that number out there. Maybe he gets half, maybe he doesn't, but the 49ers would be foolish to sign him for that. I'm hard-pressed to look at a guy who's been a runner-passer for a long period of time. You get these guys in the league. Even Vince Young was successful running and passing early. At some point, that catches up to them because the defensive minds in the NFL are way too astute to let you get away with that. And it was a little bit mitigated last year. So I think the fool pays $18 million for him, and you take that $18 million, you go out and get 3 or 4 or 5 other guys because the NFL is a 48-man roster, and you spread it out, and then you try to draft or fill the need some other way. So that's the way the Niners should go. But good for him for asking for it.
Shane, passing it to you. Did you see that?
Well, it's all about posturing. It's all about posturing. This is a negotiation that we're talking about, and I actually disagree with Dave, and I disagree with Pete. I actually think $18 million is a reasonable number for him to ask for. I don't think the 49ers will pay him $18 million. He'll probably get somewhere like 16 or 17. But what you have to look at is two things. One, the 49ers only have $10 million in cap space right now. They'll have more because there's cuts coming. Carlos Rogers is gone for sure. But when you're looking at how the salary cap is increasing going forward, 140 million, 150 million, you're going to look at the marquee quarterbacks. They're going to be making like 24, 25, 26. Drew Brees, his cap hit for 2015 is 24 million. His cap hit for 2016 is 27 million. So the elite quarterbacks are going to be making in the $20 million range going forward. So if you think Kaepernick can be the franchise quarterback, which I believe they found him and they want to go with him, you're going to pay him between $16 and $18 million, and I think that they're going to sign him for that.
Brett, it's your stage.
Yep. Well, I was going to say not so fast to Austin in talking about how he's not going to get that much money. I think he is going to get that much money, and I think Austin kind of proved my point for me. He's been to the NFC Championship. He's been to the Super Bowl. If he gets there again, how is he not worth at least $18 million? Looking at quarterback salaries, that would put him in between Tony Romo and Matt Stafford. When was the last time either Detroit or the Cowboys were in the championship games or the Super Bowl?
Matt Stafford's going to be playing arena football soon.
You know who else has gotten it done twice, though? Eli Manning. And how much is that guy making?
Well,
and what kind of a quarterback is he?
$15 million.
What kind of a quarterback is he?
Eli's at 16, actually. So, I mean, if Kaepernick wins next year, he's going to get 18. If he doesn't, someone will pay him around there. Definitely right around there. If you win, how can you – I mean, you saw the same thing with Joe Flacco. He won. He got paid. It's going to happen with Kaepernick.
And that was stupid money, too.
And that's kind of what I was wondering.
It was, but
he might not, and I think you all kind of have a point. I mean, Shane and Brett were kind of on one side of the fence, David and Austin on the other. In that sense, I feel like maybe he doesn't get it right now, but maybe he gets it soon enough, because it seems like
Bless you.
He's tight. It seems like the price for these quarterbacks is dramatically rising. I mean, we talked about Matt Stafford, Tony Romo's another good one. Guys that might not be as deserving is, I mean, I guess the point to make there is they're traditional, stand in the pocket and throw the football. But you're also talking about two guys who have blown their share of games. I think if he gets $18 million, that puts him like the 7th highest paid quarterback in the league behind, I have some names here, Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Romo, and Jay Cutler. So
sounds about right to me.
So what happens with Cam Newton? Because he's a free agent in 2015, and he plays a similar style with Kaepernick. Where does he go? What kind of money does he get? If
I would imagine
Kaepernick doesn't get 18.
Depends on the Panthers' performance this year, I think.
If Kaepernick gets his contract this year, he is setting the market for Cam Newton and Russell Wilson.
That's a very good point, and it's exactly what it's going to be from here on out. For me, though, personally, the most heartbreaking one is Jay Cutler, because I don't know why he's getting $18.1 million. Maybe that's my personal beef.
He is the highest paid player in the league. He is the highest paid player in the league this year.
And he spends half of his time riding a stationary bike. Like I don't get it.
Well, another good point is, I would like to see what Kaepernick can do without an elite running game. We saw Flacco get a Super Bowl, and Ray Rice was doing well for him that year. You take Ray Rice away, where is Flacco and the Ravens? So you want to pay this guy all this money when he has an elite defense and an elite run game. Fine, go for it, but you might be hurting. Cam Newton has a pretty good running game, not near as great as what the Niners have. You pay Cam Newton, I think. Kaepernick, I think it's a bit too soon for that. I do.
And Shane said something in there back when it was his turn to talk, before I said some things, before Brett said some things. And he made a good point in it being negotiation time, basically setting the stage for this type of thing. And that actually brings us right into our next topic, which is players possibly dropping agents, losing agent help, and representing their, doing their own negotiations. We're seeing the safety from the Tennessee Titans, Bernard Pollard, possibly doing that, and then Ndamukong Suh now. So could you imagine Ndamukong Suh in the boardroom trying to negotiate his contract? Like, does he do it with, like, intimidation? Or is he, like... I mean, excuse me, I like Suh, but I don't picture him being, like, the savvy negotiating type.
He's only a jerk on the field. He's actually pretty well-mannered, I believe, in person.
I'm sure he's well-mannered.
Studio work, yeah.
I'm well-mannered, too, but I don't know if I can negotiate a contract. Right. So,
the thing is,
Austin's boy, Teddy Bruschi, did this before. Yeah. Shane, you were saying, sorry, why don't you jump right in and you start it off for us?
Well, the thing is that even if the player is the one conducting the negotiations, even after he receives the contract, he's still going to have to turn it over to some kind of lawyer to have him look at it to make sure there's no poison pills or anything in it that he doesn't want to have there. So regardless if the player goes in there and says, I want $22 million, whatever, figures it out, and comes out with a contract that's going to pay him $21 million, he's still going to pay somebody to look it over before he actually signs it. So I really don't see the no agent thing as a big deal.
David, let's go right to you with this. The one thing is they were saying with Suh that he would get advice or outside counsel from Rock Nation or Jay-Z or what have you. Like, to me, that's just like having an agent. I don't even understand the terms of that. But go ahead, David.
Yeah, I think you've got to pay the agent. He or she or the agency earns its money, and just the representation of you, the marketing of you. You need that external representation that you don't have to worry about the business aspects. The one thing I see room for players to negotiate is maybe is it 10%, is it 5%? Like, look, I'm Robinson Cano, just to use a baseball analogy. I sell myself. I don't need you out there selling me as much, and I'm going to get a lot of money. So 5% of my lot of money is a lot of money for you. Whereas you take a guy that may be a middling guy, a guy that's a free agent looking for maybe his final lifetime contract, where it's like, look, I need you to go out, I need you to draw interest in me, show them the plays, tell them my value, and earn that 10%, and look at it that way. I don't see ever players representing themselves successfully in the long term, just like, and the lawyer thing is right on. I was thinking the same thing that Shane was thinking, in that if I go to court for any reason, plaintiff, defendant, or whatever, I need somebody that's an expert in that field to represent me the best they can, and I'm not that person. So, yeah, my take is you get the agent, and maybe you negotiate the fee, but otherwise you got to have that agent. It's not going to work in the long run.
I mean, it does seem ambitious, but at the same time, it seems kind of foolish. It's almost like somebody who walks into, like, a courtroom and they have a big charge and they're like, I'm going to represent myself.
Yeah.
Because, I read a couple books and I know what I'm doing.
I watched Matlock.
Yeah, I watched Matlock. Austin, let's go to you. I watched Franklin and Bash.
There you go.
Bad for the league, no. Bad for the player, I think so. I mean, you're supposed to be focusing on your craft. I mean, even when you were in college, you were focusing on football and you were just doing the bare minimum to get through so you could continue to play. I mean, if you got the know-how and the smarts to represent yourself, and you can read all the fine print, then so be it. I mean, I can see a smart guy like maybe Richard Sherman doing it, but I just
Stanford guy.
Right, but I just don't see why you would do that to yourself. Like, there's professionals there that you can pay to get the job done right for you. It's like, I'm not the smartest guy. I pay someone to do my taxes because I want to get all the money back that I can. Give it to the professionals. Let them handle it. Bad for the league, no. I think it's in the player's best interest that they go ahead and go through an agent.
And I think everybody on this panel, and probably all of you watching, you filled out a cell phone contract, and even that thing, you're looking at it and you're like,
yeah, what did I just sign up for?
What am I doing here? Maybe I need to have somebody look this thing over. So, I mean, could you imagine a multi-million-dollar contract? Brett, last but not least, your take.
I think for the bigger name players, I mean, you mentioned the two were Bernard Pollard and Ndamukong Suh. I think for guys like Suh representing themselves, probably not a bad idea. I mean, he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He should know how to do some of those things. I mean, he can contact other teams and say, this is how much they're offering me. I think guys like that should be fine. But Bernard Pollard, those types, I think the mid-range players need to get an agent to do what some of you guys have already mentioned, to show them in plays, negotiate contracts, say, these guys are offering me this much. Those are things that you would see Ndamukong Suh would just be able to pick a team and say, what are you going to pay me? And Bernard Pollard might need someone to, inflate the numbers a little bit, maybe play hardball to get him more money, while someone like Ndamukong Suh won't.
And I mean, we've all probably seen the tax commercial this time of the year. The guy with the old guy with the glasses and the tie talking about the boatload of money we leave every year as Americans on the aircraft carrier. That nice metaphor. So maybe to be able to read these contracts is important. Could you have imagined Rocky Balboa negotiating his contract as a boxer? Forget about it.
Give me $1 million.
All I want is Adrian. So the last topic, and probably our best of the night, our most touchy subject of the night, is the use of the N-word in the NFL and the negative ramifications that it can have on the field, and coming soon, the negative ramifications it can have if you use the word at all. We've had quite a few players have spoken out on this. The most hilarious was Rebel Riley Cooper of the Philadelphia Eagles, saying that he's pro the penalties and stuff, which was ludicrous to me. I think the guy tripped and hit his head. You had guys like Richard Sherman spoke out about it. Who else did I see? Doug Baldwin. And there's guys saying that it's an endearing term on the field. Let's go to you first, Brad. I know a lot of people don't really want to tackle this subject because it's kind of racy and it's sketchy, but I mean, this is a football show. You can't handle the truth. Brett, kick us off.
I just think it's stupid. I don't know what the NFL is thinking other than to come up with some more BS penalties to try to, change the game, or I don't know what they're trying to do with it. I mean, it's a language. It's language of speech. If I can't, I obviously don't think if I was a football player being white, I would be calling people the N-word. But what if I say you're an idiot or you're stupid? Is that the same? Is that a penalty? Should they just sit there quietly the whole time? It seems like a slippery slope. If they enforce it, okay, then but what's next? What's the next word that can't be said? And then from there, how far does it go until it's just players playing quietly because they don't want to get a 15-yard penalty?
David, why don't you pick it up right here?
Yeah, there's so many aspects of this. My first question is, where did this come from and whose idea was this? Was this officials that heard this word?
David actually came from the Trent Williams and I think Richard Sherman incident from the playoffs last year, if that's what I understand. They got in a little altercation at the end of the game, and I believe it was over that term, or that term incited the little brouhaha between them.
Sure, great, because the last thing that any league should do is implement rules in a reactionary style, like suddenly, oh wait, there was a hit on Tom Brady's knee, let's put a new rule in to make all hits on knees illegal, and I'll just pick on that, and we can have another debate about that another day. But to put in a rule like that, to put the officials in a position to, did I hear that? Did I not hear that? Maybe I heard that right. 15-yard penalties are a big deal in the NFL, and I don't think it's anybody's intent when they're watching the NFL to watch a social refereeing clean play. I get it. In youth leagues, there should be a language rule that you should be taught to play the right way, but at that level, professionals, obviously a great deal of African Americans playing. It's a term that they themselves are struggling with. You see civil rights leaders like Jesse Jackson speaking out against it, Bill Cosby, people like that they should say it, they shouldn't say it. It's something the NFL probably needs to just stay away from. And I'm not, you hate to say turn the other cheek, but let the players play, and let's not put that into the rule book as much as, because a 15-yard penalty can decide a game. Let's face it. Some games are so close that one key penalty, and you would hate to see it because even a referee misheard something. So I think it has no place in there whatsoever.
And I thought it was a great point that you brought up. What if they misheard something? Because there's so much gray area in these judgment calls, and I don't like the idea of an official saying, he said it. He said the N-word, and now you have a 15-yard penalty because
we've had referees not be able to hear heads or tails on coin tosses. They're going to hear
yes.
that.
it's crazy to me a little bit in that aspect. Shane, your thoughts?
Well, I've got a couple points on this. The first is that there was players saying that they wouldn't be able to regulate it, and I would disagree with that. The NFL could actually implement the rule. I mean, I'm in the military. You guys know that. And believe me, that kind of speech is regulated in the military. If anybody under my command uses that, there's severe repercussions. However, I don't think they should regulate it. I think it's a bad idea. Where I think this came from, in references to Dave's question, is I actually think the Jonathan Martin, Richie Incognito thing had something to do with it, and I don't think it's just the N-word that they're looking at. I know that's what they're advertising, and that's the big deal, but I think the bigger picture is any slur, you know, specifically the gay F word. I mean, now we have a gay player, openly gay player, coming into the NFL. That kind of term is not going to be acceptable either, and there's no question that that's not a term of endearment. They should not censor. There is already a rule in the NFL rulebook that says that they can flag for insulting or taunting language. So the officials already have that rule in place. If somebody were to say the F word to anybody, they could flag that because there's no instance in an F word could be in a term of endearment. So I do think it's a bad idea for the NFL to try to regulate the N-word. I think the NFL officials have enough to call on the field already.
You know, and I thought about this a little bit too, and I got to thinking, like, maybe one aspect is the fact that, you know, at any given time, maybe there's a few white guys on the field, and do they feel uncomfortable? Have any white players come forward and said, hey, I feel uncomfortable that, you know, the N-word's being tossed around, and, you know, it's definitely a taboo that they can't say. So, I mean, does that play into it? I haven't read any official reports on that yet, but maybe in my mind, that was something the wheels were spinning with, and I wondered. Austin, you're last on this, so let's bring it home.
I really feel like them bringing this into play, the N-word, and trying to eliminate it from the game, I think that's picking on the African-American players. I mean, they're the ones that usually use it with each other. It's like, clearly that's where the call is going to be made, towards those players. Unless a white player is in a private social environment, you know, with people that he's comfortable with, or like Riley Cooper, that's when that word is used among, you know, Caucasians. But, you know, between black people, usually, if there's a few that aren't comfortable with it, and some have spoken out and been like, hey man, that word's not cool with me, you know, this is what it means to me, I don't want you to use it around me. But I mean, clearly this is going to be attacking the African American players. I think, like Shane said, the refs have enough to deal with, and they're not even getting all of that right all the time. Let's not give them any more on their plate. I think it's silly.
I mean, a 15-yard penalty is absolutely ludicrous. I can't fathom a 15-yard penalty playing into this, and it's a generational thing. You know, in my opinion, I feel like you do. I think Jim Brown's, you know, is one of those guys who's the N-word is absolutely not acceptable in his book. But I mean, Jim Brown is like 150 years old at this point, so not saying that it's acceptable, but I'm just saying I think if you look at older you know, black athletes or black people in general, I feel like they feel like they're less tolerant of the word than this younger generation. I mean, go watch a Vine video sometime, and you know, you could probably clock the N-word 50 times in 40 seconds. I just feel like the term is accepted in a different way, you know, these days than it was back then.
Well,
anybody have final thoughts on this?
Yeah, here's another point as far as like the technology and how far it's come. Everybody is mic'd, and you can hear everything, and so the NFL is probably trying to crack down on it because everything is heard, nothing is going to go unnoticed, so they want to try to clean up the language. But then on the other hand, as a professional football player, whereas the word typically is not socially acceptable, especially on national TV with all the kids gathered around eating Papa John's pizza, you know, as a professional, you wouldn't want to use that word either to give yourself a negative image. So I could see what the NFL is trying to do, but I feel like these professional athletes should be able to monitor their own language, and it really shouldn't be an issue going forward. I don't care what Incognito and Martin had to say to each other in a private text message that went public. I really don't care. That's my thoughts on it.
So final quick topic that wasn't part of our topic list. I know you guys love this part of the show. And I only do it every once in a while.
The shot out of a cannon segment.
The shot out of a cannon, and we'll go real quick, just a real quick response on this from everybody. We'll go right down the line. Brett, you're going to be last on this one. We'll start with you first, David. The Buffalo Bills decide not to tag Jairus Bird. It kind of felt like Bird didn't want to be there anyways, and I saw a lot of different comments. I'm from the Buffalo area, so I saw a lot of people commenting and saying, good, spend the money on people who want to be in Buffalo, who want to be in a Bills uniform. But at the same time, I mean, Jairus Bird has been huge. David, your thoughts, good or bad from the Bills' standpoint?
I think overall good. I think in general, although it was in the CBA that this franchise tag was part of the deal, that if the player doesn't want to be there and you use it, then in the long run it's not going to be beneficial for your franchise. So you might be better. You're going to be paying top dollar for that guy, even if you franchise him. He's better. You're paying top dollar. Probably should go a different direction with the money.
Shane, your thoughts, good or bad for the Bills?
It's always bad when you lose such a big player, and he honestly, when you look at the Bills, he's in the top 3 of their best players that they have right now. I do think that he does. I do think that he doesn't want to be there. If you know a little bit about him, he's actually from the San Diego area. He might just be tired of playing in the cold.
Yeah. You can't get any different than Buffalo and San Diego. Probably.
I mean, Andre Reed's from like San Diego, I think, right? Austin, your thoughts on Bird, good or bad for the Bills?
This is definitely a shot out of the canyon segment because I totally forgot that there was a team in Buffalo. So we're gonna go ahead and just pass the torch to Buffalo Bill Brett over there, and he'll let you know his thoughts on the Birdman.
Okay, Buffalo Bill Brett, take us home.
Well, once Brady retires, Austin will realize what it's like to lose a lot. So those days are coming. They're coming soon. I mean, good or bad that they didn't use the tag? Probably good. I don't know. I keep going back and forth. I've had this discussion a bunch of times with some of our other Sports Kings guys, some family members who are Bills fans. I can't decide. I mean, good because he probably wasn't going to sit out until week 8 or 9 anyways, and who knows if he signs. Who knows what he plays like when he comes back anyways. And bad because who knows, someone might have given up a second or third rounder of him for him this year, and if you tagged him, you could have traded him. But I think the Bills front office realized that there's a lot of hurdles to get over to tag and trade someone. You have to find a team that's willing to part with a second or third rounder. You have to find someone that's willing to pay him the $10 to $11 million he wants, and I think they were just happy to let him walk. And on the whole situation, I need to see how the offseason goes. I mean, if they sign T.J. Ward, then cool. I don't really care. Bye, Bird. See you later. If they draft Clinton Dix, I mean, they're kind of spinning the wheels, but fine with me too. I got to see how it goes. But I was a little sad on Monday, just a little bit.
I mean, I feel like it's an intriguing question because of the fact that it's always bad to lose an impact player like Bird, obviously. But on the other note, sometimes it's bad to keep these players, especially if a player doesn't want to be there. So I feel like which one outweighs the other one. It's kind of like with your lady friend, your wife, your girlfriend, your fiance, or whatever you have. When they drag us to one of these movies we don't want to see, these chick flicks, and we tell them all week, I don't want to go, babe. I don't want to go to the movie. I don't like it. I don't want to see Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey for the 15th time. But you go anyways because you have to, and then you complain through the first half an hour of the movie, and they get pissed to the point where they don't even want you to be there anymore. So don't handcuff people into doing things, and that's what this franchise tag often does. On behalf,
Andy, actually, I have one question. Sorry, okay. I have a shot out of the cannon too for you.
Okay.
Just real quick. How much does everyone place importance on the safety position? Because that's a question that's come up a lot between the other Sports Kings and I. And to me, it was, yeah, he's important and he's a Pro Bowler. That's great, but safety isn't that important.
I mean, I guess I would rather have a top flight, number one cornerback than a safety any day of the week. But at the same time, I mean, an impact player is an impact player, and I think it depends on how he's used on the defense. Shane, you want to pick it up?
Well, I think the secondary as a whole is what you have to look at, and you have to have at least one or two impact players in your secondary. The franchise tag for safety is actually not that high, but I think for Bird's case, was this the second year he's going to be franchised?
Yes.
So his cap number, his $8.4 million for the franchise tag for safety would have gone up, I think, like 15%. So yeah, it was probably cost prohibitive, but your guys are going to miss him in your secondary. A good player in your secondary makes your other players in your secondary better.
Absolutely. David or Austin, you guys have anything to chime in with?
One quick thing, you look at some safety players like Earl Thomas this year was a big difference maker for the Seahawks, and the entire secondary, as Shane just alluded to, is better because of what he could cover and what he could do. And you go back to some of the Troy Palomalus and Ronnie Lott's, guys that were just impact players and made the big hits. There are guys out there. It just depends on, but it is an entire secondary type thing. One guy's not going to make the difference.
I mean, we know Austin likes the fact that he's not staying in Buffalo. Austin, you got a thought on this?
No, I completely agree with Shane, and I will say, for New England, the safety position has been really great, so I value it personally. There's other teams that, it's probably not as important when you got some talented corners, but Shane's absolutely right. It's a secondary as a whole, and you do need one or two, no matter where they are in that secondary. I agree with Shane 100%.
Well, behalf of all you guys that are on the panel tonight and everybody else at the Sports Kings Network, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure you stop back next week as we'll have our next episode of NFL Chat. Make sure you go to www.sports-kings.com and you can check out all of our work there. Hit us up on Facebook. Just type in Sports-Kings in your search bar, and you can follow us on Twitter @RealSportsKings. Have a great night, everybody. Until next time.